Now, while speaking to HUD employees on his first full day, Ben Carson said something incredibly controversial during what was supposed to be an actually pretty decent speech about opportunity. Let's take a listen to this.
That's what America is about. A land of dreams and opportunity. There were other immigrants who came here in the bottom of slave ships, worked even longer, even harder for less. But they too had a dream that one day their sons, daughters, grandsons, granddaughters, great-grandsons, great-granddaughters might pursue prosperity and happiness in this land.
Okay, so that was more than enough to almost put me to sleep. Look, to be fair to Ben Carson, yes, it was actually a decent speech. I can understand what he's trying to say. He's talking about opportunity, but holy shit, he is not the smartest guy in the world, and you can tell by that. I mean, he's literally ruined the joke of, hey, well, look, hey, it's not brain surgery, right? How hard could it be? Well, apparently, not so hard if you're Ben Carson. The guy may have gifted hands, but not so gifted when it comes to knowledge of history. Basically, if you heard him, he said slaves were immigrants who worked harder for less. No. They didn't get less. They got nothing because they were slaves. Slaves get nothing. That's why we call them slaves. Not immigrants, by the way. And look, not only that, but look, the people that are in the slave ships were not over here to try and get opportunity in America. Pretty sure that they were busy enough seeking opportunity where they were at before they were hauled over here in chains. They didn't want to come here at all. In fact, they were forced to. And of course, they had dreams of prosperity for their children and grandchildren. That didn't involve being dragged over here, whipped and beaten and killed, and for the women, raped and to have their children ripped away from them and sold at auction. No, what Ben Carson just did is literally whitewashed the horrors of slavery by calling them immigrants who worked a little harder than everyone else for a little bit less. That's what's going on here. I mean, look, the rest of that speech, yeah, it's normal stuff. It's normal, hey, America, opportunity, all that stuff. Yeah, okay, that was fine, but the rest of it, I'm sorry, but that part, super dumb. Super dumb. Now, of course, after he said that, social media blew the fuck up, man. You had everybody out there going, what the hell was he talking about? Immigrants? Slaves were immigrants? You've got to be kidding me. Now, yesterday, actually earlier today, Carson addressed that by saying, you know what? No, I'm right. I'm going to double down on this. Speaking on Sirius XM radio with his friend Armstrong Williams, Carson said, quote, I think people need to actually look up the word immigrant. Whether you're voluntary or involuntary, if you come from the outside to the inside, you're an immigrant. Whether you're legal or illegal, you come from the outside to inside, you're an immigrant. Slaves just happen to come here as involuntary immigrants, but they still had the strength to hold on. Again, I get what he's trying to say, but boy, disaster. Why say things like they worked harder for less? You know why? That minimizes the horrors of slavery. It's almost like saying Jim Crow wasn't that big of a deal because, hey, look, at least we had our own fountain. It was our fountain. Maybe it was a couple of steps away from the white fountain, but what are you guys complaining about? Hey, look, the back of the bus is just as comfortable as the front of the bus. Why are we complaining? You kind of missed the point there, Ben. Just a little bit. In fact, one woman who called into the show actually disagreed with Carson. She said, quote, you can't be an immigrant if you're brought over here in chains. And that's exactly what we're trying to say. It's not necessarily an immigrant. And Carson responded, yes, you can be an involuntary immigrant. And continued by saying, we should be proud to have ancestors that have had the mental strength to endure what so many others had not been able to endure. They had tried to enslave all kinds of people, but they were not able to survive it, and that requires a tremendous amount of toughness and willpower and strength and hope, and they had that. Don't let someone turn that into something bad. Now look, no one here is trying to say that they didn't have an extraordinary strength to survive that hundreds of years of enslavement and torture and all the injustice that came after it. What people are pointing out here, Ben, is that you can't go and just say things like they worked a little harder and made a little less, and we're just immigrants here with dreams. That implies that they actually wanted to come here. Involuntary immigrant. It sounds the whole language of this blunts the horrors that happened under slavery and under the subsequent laws of Jim Crow and still the racial issues that are going on today. Look, dreams, their dreams, and I'm sure they had them, were crushed by the slavers that forcibly brought these people to America to work on their plantations for someone else's monetary benefit. I feel like calling it immigration takes away from the level of that injustice. It's sort of like Texas school books that once called slaves workers. It is outrageous because, yes, they might be technically workers, but the whole purpose of that is to make this seem more palatable. And I'm sorry, that is something that we just cannot abide by. No, you can't say things like this. That's ridiculous. You need to be factual on this and expose the horrors of slavery for what they really are, and to never forget that we once owned other human beings. And the reason that we don't want to forget about that is so that we never do it again. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.